Hello folks, Legion Remix is launching on October the 7th in North America and the 8th in Europe, along with the rest of patch 11.2.5. This announcement probably wasn't a massive surprise for many of you, as it confirmed some previously data mined dates that had Remix running from October the 7th through to January the 19th. Now that latter end date isn't confirmed by Blizzard, and for sure is subject to change, but it is nevertheless interesting for what it might tell us about the content schedule for the rest of this year and through to the launch of Midnight early next. More on that later in this video. But before we get to that, let's dive into the full release schedule for Remix, along with a look at the other content that will be coming in the new patch. Blizzard have been helpful enough to share a graphic with all the release dates for the many phases of Legion Remix, along with a few tantalising hints of some possible additional content. Phase 1 of Remix will be launching on the 7th, containing all of the original Legion 7.0 content, including the class order halls, the Broken Isles levelling zones, and the max level Suramar zone, along with the 7.0 Suramar storyline, which at the time of Legion was the best bit of in-game storytelling we'd ever seen, and one that if you missed it back in the day, is well worth doing in Remix just to experience. And for fans of endgame content, we're getting the return of the Emerald Dream Raid and the Mythic Keystone dungeons. The latter of these will see the return of many of the original Legion Mythic Plus affixes, along with 4 brand new affixes called Eternity's Trials. And one extra thing that we are getting in Phase 1 is the Trial of Valor mini raid, which was originally part of Legion's 7.1.0 patch. Remix, of course, does mean that there will be some changes, including a brand new heroic world tier, which increases the difficulty of open world enemies, but also, of course, the rewards. And you'll also be able to enjoy a system of new time warp obelisks that will offer you powerful temporary buffs to help you as you explore the Broken Isles. There's a massive amount of new and returning cosmetic rewards, most of which will be purchased using the Remix currency of Bronze. This time around, that currency is for cosmetics only, thanks to the removal of the gear upgrade system that we saw in MOP Remix. This does mean that gearing this time around will be a little bit different, with fixed item level drops from the majority of content. Those drops will scale with the levels, and later on at max level with a combination of both our current item level and the difficulty of the content you do. Eventually they'll cap out at item level 740, which is attainable at least in theory during Phase 1 of Remix. One very important part of gearing in Legion is of course the artifact weapons, which are making a return, but do have some fairly significant changes. Instead of each of the different weapons having their own individual talent trees, they now all share a single updated talent tree, which offers 5 different tracks to choose from. The good news is that unlike the Legion original, you will be able to freely respec your weapon, and the infinite power currency that is used to upgrade the weapon is shared between all of your specializations. Now, there are a few things that are not making a return for Remix, including artifact appearances, seasonal PvP appearances, the underlying angler, and those order hall mission tables. And if you're wondering what that means for those really annoying order hall campaign mission quests, they now just instantly complete when you get them. Jumping forward now to Phase 2, which releases on October the 21st, and this will have the Legion 7.1 content, including the second part of the Suramar storyline, the Karazhan Mega Dungeon, and the Nighthold Raid. Phase 3, releasing on November the 4th, will have the Legion 7.2 content, opening up access to the Broken Shore, the Tomb of Sigeris, and the Cathedral of Eternal Night dungeon. But sadly for many, the Mage Tower is not going to be making a return. Phase 4 of Remix will open on the 18th of November, unlocking access to Argus, along with the Legion invasion points, the seat of the Triumvirate dungeon, and Entorus the Burning Throne. With that raid marking a return of the original Legion's ahead of the curved mount, the Violet Spellwing. And the final phase of Remix, Phase 5, will, after a slightly longer gap of 3 weeks, open up on December the 9th. Now, we do not have a lot of information on what exactly this phase will involve, but according to the Blizzard announcement, it will include catch-up systems, content updates, and additional rewards. Back during the PTR, an additional vendor called Demelius, who was labelled as a housing vendor, made a very brief appearance in Remix before being removed, which may just perhaps be hinting what those additional rewards could turn out to be, especially as player housing has been confirmed as launching as a pre-order preview before the end of the year. Back when Legion Remix was first announced, the developers did promise that the final phase would last at least a month, which lines up reasonably well with that data mined end date of January the 19th, meaning that Remix will almost certainly be remaining live over the Christmas and New Year holiday period. As with Myths of Pandaria Remix, once the event ends, our characters will be automatically converted into normal retail World of Warcraft characters with a brand new set of gear, which on the PTR was item level 655. However, this time around, we're also getting the option to transfer our characters out of Remix before the event ends, albeit this will be a one-way transition, meaning that if you do take a character out of Remix, there's no way for it to get back in. And if you've already far too many characters, the good news is that we're also going to be getting an extra 5 character slots, taking us up to a maximum of 70. Now, if you're hungry for more in-depth details of Remix, I do have a few deeper dives in the pipeline, so if you're not a subscriber, do hit that button now so that you find out when they go live. Moving on now to the non-Remix content, and for those of us who will still be very busy with Season 3, Turbo Boost is making a return. With the release of the patch, our hero and myth track gear will be getting 2 extra upgrade slots, taking them from 6 to 8. However, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for the rest of Turbo Boost, with the developers promising that it will come soon after the patch launches. And those promised Turbo Boost changes will include a significant increase in the drop rates for Warband until equipped catch-up gear from Mythic Plus and the Manaforge Omega Raid, the ability to transfer Valor Stones across the Warband, and additional Catalyst charge drops from Mythic Plus, the Raid, Delves, and PvP. Along with that, we're also going to see the return of the puzzling cartel chip vendors, which will be offering weapons, trinkets, and cantrip items from Season 3. Most likely, but not 100% confirmed, that will include the special boots from the Soul Hunters raid encounter. In this week's announcement, Blizzard says that these items will only be available to adventurers who prove themselves worthy, which heavily implies that the same restrictions as Season 2 will apply. And this has seemingly been backed up by a separate announcement from the WoW team in China, who, when issuing a warning to players in China that items could be removed if they violate the rules, implies that the myth track raid items will indeed require defeating those items' respective bosses on mythic difficulty. And this does make it very likely, I think, that the myth track dungeon items will, as with last time, require timing all of the dungeons on a plus 12 or above. Weirdly, in the update, the developers stated that up to 3 puzzling cartel chips will be available, which would be down from 9 in Season 2. But I suspect that this is simply a mistake, and the developers actually meant to say that, just as with Season 2, we'll be able to obtain 3 items. Now, the Turbo Boost announcement did not make any mention of the removal of the crest cap, nor the return of the Mythic Plus catch-up chests that could be purchased for Valor Stones. But as these have been staples of the mid-season for a lot longer than the rest of Turbo Boost, I'm personally expecting that these still will be included. The removal of the crest cap is especially important, as those extra upgrade levels aren't much use if you don't have enough crests to spend on them. One of the most exciting bits of Turbo Boost for me in Season 2 was being able to upgrade my mass of lower level crests that had accumulated over the season into gilded crests and being able to use them to get an instant boost in power. And I cannot help but feel that having the gear upgrade levels be increased before the crest cap is removed will make it all feel a bit flat this time around. Overall, I'm not a fan of the staged release for Turbo Boost. I recall how incredibly busy Donegal felt with the launch of Season 2's Turbo Boost, but with that staged release, I'm somehow doubtful that we'll see a repeat of that this time around. As for the timing of Turbo Boost, soon really doesn't give much away, but in Season 2, Turbo Boost happened to coincide with that mid-season crest cap removal, which usually happens in week 11 of the season, which would be October the 21st, although obviously don't hold me to that date. And the final content update for 11.2.5 is a major revamp of the Cooldown Manager. It's fair to say that the original launch of the Cooldown Manager was a bit of a miss, thanks to a lack of customizability and some rather odd choices by the designers about what and what not to include for each class and specialisation. I'm glad to be able to say that the team have now added a full suite of customization options, along with adding the majority of missing abilities and buffs, albeit there are still some occasional gaps on the PTR version, such as Protection Paladin's Argent Defender, which I do hope will still get added before this feature goes live. There's no doubt in my mind that the Cooldown Manager is now a lot closer in functionality to the popular weak order based head-up display packs such as those made by Luxos, and I definitely recommend giving it a try. My own personal plans are to be using this in Midnight for the majority of my alts, although for my main, I think it does still remain to be seen if I'll use it. The biggest remaining gap in the Cooldown Manager, assuming those odd omissions that I mentioned are filled, is the lack of any way to include tier set tracking into the system. That said, the World of Warcraft team have promised to continue to make more improvements to it in Midnight, so hopefully that gap will eventually be filled. Now, one expected feature that was absent from this week's announcement was the new Recent Allies tab, something that was originally announced in the 11.2.5 PTR's launch, but at least as of this video has never actually made an appearance on the PTR. With this week's update containing full previews of all of the other features, but making no mention of this, it does make me wonder if Recent Allies has been pulled from the patch, similar to the way that the Mythic Plus Abandoned Vote system had a strangely delayed launch in patch 11.2.0. Now that we know the release date of patch 11.2.5 and a possible end date for Remix, I thought it was a good time to revisit the possible timeline for the rest of the War Within and the launch of Midnight. This particular schedule that's on screen now is based on the regular 8-week launch cadence for new patches, along with a 5-week pre-patch, and I've taken the length of the Dragonflight and War Within Alpha and Betas to generate an estimate for the Midnight Alpha and Beta launches, and this predicts a pre-patch launch of January 27th, just 1 week after the end of Remix, with Midnight Early Access on the 26th of February, followed by delayed access, full release, on March the 2nd. Now, no matter when we're actually likely to see patch 11.2.7 release, I'm expecting that it will get its preview announcement and be up in the PTR either the week of the 7th of October or the following week. And I'm expecting that it will include the spooky Duskwood themed event that was teased back in August at PAX East, a preview storyline for Midnight, and of course, player housing. I'm personally very doubtful that player housing will actually be playable on the PTR, as it's a pre-order bonus. But I am expecting that the player housing vendors and drops will be present on the PTR, giving us an early opportunity to start planning out our house interiors. There's also, I think, a bit of a question if that Duskwood event will actually get any PTR testing, or if it will end up being similar to Plunderstorm, which was dropped live without any testing at all. Now, my personal guess is that Blizzard would prefer to launch Alpha in a quiet news week, so I'm betting that we'll see that either 1 to 2 weeks after the 11.2.7 PTR goes live. But do keep in mind that this is of course just speculation. Do not take any of these dates too seriously. And finally for this week, I have a quick reminder of something that is arriving a little bit sooner. This Tuesday, the 23rd of September, will see the launch of the Brewfest holiday. The original 2025 roadmap did promise an update for Brewfest, although it is worth saying that Blizzard's holiday updates have been quite variable in their scope, ranging from just a few extra rewards to complete overhauls. That said, there is one thing that we do know, and that is the addition of this brand new mount to the mount journal. The Brewfest Barrel Bomber is a super cool new mount, which according to the mount journal will be dropping from the Corrin Dire Brew mini dungeon encounter. Most likely this will follow the same rules as the other recent holiday mount drops, and only be available from a first account-wide kill of the day, but will also very likely have a significantly higher drop chance than the older holiday mount. Along with this addition, Wowhead has data mined some Brewfest themed transmog sets, along with a new Brewer's Balloon toy, and also some mysterious bags of Brewfest merchandise. Those latter do make me think that there is a bigger potential that we could be getting some kind of additional gameplay content, so it may well be worth paying a visit to Brewfest when it goes live. And that's it for this week's update. Will you be farming that new Brewfest mount? Or are you, like me, still waiting for the original RAM and Cooldown mounts to drop? Let me know in the comments down below, along with all of your thoughts on Remix and that new content that's coming up. If you found this update helpful, entertaining, and even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos, along with my other content, then hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. And if you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me social media for updates. My links are in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.